Happy Thanksgiving, YouTube. Dan here with a special Thanksgiving video. Unfortunately, there's really no Thanksgiving comics that I can think of to show, so this will just be a regular video on Thanksgiving. But I guess I could say, I'm thankful for my wife and my parents, my step-parents, my brother Paul, his wife Gina, and my awesome nephew Lucas, and niece Zoe, as well as Skippy the pug. I'm also very thankful for these comic books. I'm thankful that I have a fortress of comics to surround myself in. It brings me a lot of joy. I'm also really thankful for Logan, who helped build these shelves for me, and I'll probably go into detail about the construction of these shelves on a collection tour video of some kind in the future. But for right now, let's talk some comics. I got some new comics today. A whole nother huge, hefty bag. And I got a bunch of cool stuff that I read over the last week. I figured I would try to go through these. Hopefully this will be somewhat quick, but you never know. I don't really care how it goes. You can turn it off if you want, but you want to stay tuned for this stack. Oh boy. The last week was huge, and I left 5 comics behind in my pull box. So 5 of these were from last week, but there was so many this week. I was really hoping for a lighter week because, they're expensive. And I highly contemplated just keeping some there still this week. But I'm like, what's going to happen next week? They're just going to keep piling up. So I'll just move through these really quick, show you what I picked up. Haven't read any, just got them. And then we'll move on to more stuff. So I believe this one was from last week. This Sacrificers number 17. Claire is not looking so good today. I got the Good as Dead number 3. I think there's one more issue of this still to come out. Okay, here's one from today. This is a new title called Devil on My Shoulder. This is Kyle Starks and Peter Kowalski. So that's the exact same team that did Where Monsters Lie, which was another Dark Horse book. They had 2 volumes come out through Dark Horse recently, and the third one, for some reason, Dark Horse didn't believe the sales were good enough to justify doing it. So they did it on Kickstarter. And I backed that, so when that comes in, I'll be showing that off, I'm sure. I really like the Where Monsters Lie series. I thought it was really funny and clever. But it's interesting that Dark Horse passed on that series, but then instantly greenlit another series from these guys. I don't remember what this was at. I read the blurb online about it, but maybe they had this one done before that. I don't know, but I'll read that one soon and let you know. Here's a super random pickup. I don't get anything like this ever, but I just randomly decided to grab this Infernal Hulk number 1. It just came out today, and I'm trying to fix this light. It's maybe better, maybe worse. It just looked really good. I know that the Immortal Hulk got a lot of praise, and I did not read that, and I don't buy any modern Hulk comics at all. But something about this one, it just sounded like Bruce Banner gets separated from the Hulk, and then it becomes this evil Hulk that looks like that, which looks really cool. And he just goes on an absolute rampage. So I think the majority of this, when I flipped through it in the store, just looked like monster fights. And that's what you want with the Hulk, right? Some barbed wire or razor wire. I think it's a razor wire. So, yeah, it just looked fun. So I'm going to check this out. And who knows, maybe I'll be on board with a Hulk comic. Probably not, but we'll see. All right, there's the next Punisher. There's number 2 of the Marvel Knights Punisher. Super stoked about that. And I actually looked into a Marvel previews catalog at the store today, and there was another new Punisher title coming out. So I've got That's right, and there's this one. So now there's going to be 4 new Punisher titles. Wow, what happened? It went from no Punisher whatsoever for quite a while, and now there's an excess of Punisher. You don't hear me complaining. This is a new series, Daredevil and Punisher. And that's the Dan Panosian variant that I got. I like his art on that other series, but this artist is Tommaso Bianchi, but this is also written by Jimmy Palmiotti. So got Jimmy Palmiotti on this one and this new Daredevil Punisher. I'm sure this is going to be a mini series, but I don't know how many. Oh, and it looks like a split comics. There's actually I don't know if it's just a short backup, but there's Mini Marvels The Dare by Chris Giarrusso, writer, artist, and letterer. So upon first glance, you know, kind of just looks like your standard house style, current house style, but I just love these characters. I love Daredevil and Punisher, so I was psyched to learn that came out. I don't really look ahead to see what's coming out, so this is 100% shock. I just got the email of my shop emails me a list of everything that's new that's coming out, and I just look at it the night before New Comic Day. So here's one I just took a chance on as well. This is something I've never heard of before called Deadhead #1. Fucking glare, man, that's so bad. Let's see here. It's probably just gonna be a problem. Okay, yeah, it sucks. Let's take it out of the bag. So this is a variant cover, but it just was cooler than the other ones, and it's by something called Iron Ace. Iron Age Comics. Here's a look at the other covers that they had. And you know me, I like my severed heads and my fighting, so this looked like a fun comic. I don't know. Some indie thing. Look at that. There's a face ripped off on that page. Melting somebody in a vat of acid. Bring it. I'm on. Oh yeah, look at that sledgehammer to the face. So, get the sicko stuff out of the way and see what's next here. Oh, nice. Last Day of H.P. Lovecraft #2. I highlighted this comic in a video recently, and I really, really dug the first issue. So looking forward to checking that one out. All right, new Geiger. Geiger's been gone for a little while. I got the Kyle Hotz cover on that. And let's see. It says Gary Frank is in here, but does he actually draw the substantial portion of it? No, he doesn't. Eduardo Panicia, penciler pages 1 to 18. Gary Frank, artist, pages 19 to 22. Only does 4 pages. Weak. This art doesn't look bad, but Gary Frank's art was really great on this title. I'm loving Geiger, though, so I read that one every month when it comes out. We are closing in on the end of Cul-de-sac. I think there's 1 issue left of this. Look at that amazing cover. God, the art in this is so good. Bad idea on that one. Skinbreaker #3. And talk about good art. This art is ridiculous. It's a pretty sweet cover. From the Remender pile, Escape #4. This is a fun book. Another Bad Idea, Survive issue 3. Not the most exciting cover on that one. I haven't started reading that one yet, actually. Department of Truth, #34. These covers are kind of all starting to look the same to me. Nocturnal's Sinister Path, #3. Also haven't read that one. I'm going to read the Nocturnal's hardcover volume 2 that I haven't read yet first, and I'm going to read this one. Okay, and then 2 more from last week. Exquisite Corpses, #7. And last but not least, Creepshow Volume 4, Issue 3. Oh, wow, that's a lot of comics. And I read a lot of comics in the last week, so I'm just going to go through some of these and I have a few things to talk about. I completed some new series. I read some older stuff. And I read that Sweet Annihilator, Josh Simmons book. So let's see. Let's start with the thing I think was the best thing I read. Yeah, I would say this is probably the best thing I read in the last week. So this is not a new comic. This is Toxic Gumbo from Vertigo in 1998. 48-page square-bound book written by Lydia Lunch and art by Ted McKeever. Now, I am not super familiar with a lot of Ted McKeever. I really like him, but I have not got into his bigger works yet, like Metropole. I only read the first issue of that, so I want to get that. And I have Plastic Forks. I just haven't read it yet. But I've read a lot of just random one-offs from Ted McKeever, and I didn't know who Lydia Lunch was. So I got to the end of the comic, and there's these bios, and I'm like, oh, she sounds famous. And then I looked her up, and it's like she's been a musician and actress, spoken word, writer, all kinds of stuff for a long time. So this comic, Toxic Gumbo, this 148-page square-bound comic, felt like a very satisfying 5-issue series all in one comic, and I just love when they can do that. This is a totally twisted comic, and it's about this girl who is born to this woman who there was a plague of locusts, and the father died from yellow fever a couple months before she was born, and the mom got, I think it was from the locusts. Oh no, she got bit by a stinging caterpillar. That's what it was. So that stinging caterpillar got the mom, and somehow they were able to get the baby out of the womb in this ambulance. So that's how she was born. As her mom was dying in an ambulance, she gets cut out, and she gets sent to the Temple of Innocent Blood, an orphanage with nuns and stuff like that. And while she's there, she's just totally weird from the start. But while she's there, there's this little chemistry set kit thing that she confiscated. It was left for Christmas one year, and she sets up a small lab in an abandoned shed which bordered the backyard. It would examine bodily fluids, urine, saliva, tears, excrement, even blood. First my own, then from other orphans who could be bribed with pilfered food. So she starts these weird experiments, and she starts experimenting with things she's finding, like animals and, weird herbs and things that are toxic. She starts to explore all kinds of different toxins, and she poisons one of the nuns. And actually, she poisons a whole bunch of people, but she herself is experimenting with these substances to build up tolerances. So her whole thing, she's all about being like a toxic person in a way and trying to see how she can survive. She escapes from this orphanage and goes on the run and meets interesting folk along the way. There's lots of great characters she comes across, but they all end in tragedy. She gets this little doll that she carries around with her. It's pretty cool. On the back cover, there's an actual real doll that some photographer artist made for this, and that's just a photograph of it. There's another really cool one that appears in the contents of the comic. But she just keeps exploring all these weird chemicals and gets into all kinds of crazy stuff. She goes to this animal clinic, and these guys come in there, and she gets bit by a spider, and she's like dying from like some spider bite, but she's like embracing it. She eats the spider right after it bites her, and she's studying more from these books she's finding. It's really dark and awesome, but yeah, she poisons these guys, and she ends up just getting so over the top with these poisons and toxins that she finds. There's a really cool shrunken head image that looks, I mean, this is all painted stuff by Ted McKeever, but this is like painted in a different kind of way than the rest of the art. Really nice picture. And I'll try to find that. There we go. There's the photo of the doll. So yeah, a lot of crazy stuff happens in this comic. It was outstanding. I got it for very little money, and it provided me with a lot of entertainment. So I love when something can do that. I'm not as big of a fan of the decompressed storytelling kind of thing. So that leads us to this next series I just finished. This is a 6-issue series from Distillery called Life. This is written by 2 writers, Brian Azzarello and Stephanie Phillips, and drawn by Daniel Zizelge in a very digitalized style. I've seen his stuff before, and I never really thought of it as really super digital, but this time you could really tell. They had a lot of different variant covers for all of these issues, and they also have a flip cover. So I'll open them up and show you. Just flipping through the main covers. Some of these are variants. That's a Gabriel Walta cover on that one. It's probably my favorite one, but especially the back side of this one's really good. So this took a long time to come out. This has been like well over a year that it took for these 6 issues to come out. Now, I will say one thing positive about these Distillery comics. They gave you a lot of comic for your money in the terms of, yeah, this is an $8.99 comic, but it's square bound 48-page comic. And so it's essentially like, 2 24-page comics. So it's like $1 more than you would spend on 2 regular $3.99 comics. But you're getting the same amount of pages basically, and you're getting this cool oversized magazine style. And as you can see from that shine, all the covers have this spot varnish on it. They all have something that shines like that. So there's 2 sides to the comic. And the thing that they do that's kind of unique here is the first side is prose. The flip side is cons. And my first thought was, okay, so does Brian Azzarello write one side, Stephanie Phillips writes the other side? They never explain anything about it. I can't tell. The writing from one side to the other seems like the same writer. So I don't know how they do it. Maybe they both collaborated on the story, and then one or the other of them did the dialogue. I'm really not completely sure. But what you've got is a pretty interesting thing. I'm sure someone's done this before, but on the first side, you have a story going. It follows a certain set of characters through what's going on. This is a sci-fi comic, as you couldn't tell. The other side of the comic, the cons, follows a completely separate set of characters in another storyline, and then they intersect. So what you get is 2 storylines going on at once, but they cross over a little bit. Of course, in the middle of each issue, you're going to run into this spot where they bump into each other, with the next issue coming soon. And so even though these are happening at the same time and they're crossing over, I was kind of hoping they would have been very separate stories, and they like only really meet up with the characters from one story and the other only meet up in the very end. That's not the case. They meet up at the end of the first issue or the beginning of the second issue. And then it's kind of like you're just seeing the story from 2 perspectives in a sense. Sometimes some things will happen in one side and you're not sure what's going on. Then you read the other side. You're like, oh yeah, that was that. They already talked about it. But here's the basic plot of this story. It's all about criminals, by the way. So when they say pros and cons, what these are actually referring to is professional criminals, and cons, convicts, criminals who got caught. So and the first guy, actually, the main guy here, is just getting out of jail for like his 5th time or something. But he gets out of jail, he meets up with his old fling. She's got one last heist to pull on some other planet that has a bunch of diamonds they're going to steal. And I think she kind of tricks him into going. I don't think he really wanted to, but they put him in some cryo sleep, and they assemble this crew, random different crew of people, kind of like aliens, a bunch of different, very unique personalities on this ship, including this woman who goes by the name of Queen Jesus, and she's like a social media influencer, and she has all these little orbs that look like, Luke Skywalker would be fighting those things off. with his lightsaber training, and they're little cameras that follow her around. They're like little drones to live stream her activities. So she's funding this mission because she just wants to get this content. She wants to be the first one to open this vault on this planet they're going to. So they're going to this planet that has been supposedly desolate and uninhabited for a very, very long time. On the flip side, the B side of the convict side, you start to meet these characters right away and realize that these are like really bad criminals, like mass murderers and stuff like that, serial killers. And they're in jail, and they're essentially, sentenced to many, many, many life sentences, 17 life sentences back to back and stuff like that. So they come up with this idea that it would be more, because they're so bad, that the better way to go about this would be to take these criminals and actually subject them to this new experiment here that this guy's got going in this lab, where they give them some kind of, immortality solution that allows them to actually live long enough to serve out all their life sentences. So what's worse, like going to the gas chamber or actually having to live and live and live and live? And what they do is they send these guys to this planet to do this mining job. And they end up on this planet and they're doing this mining job. And then this is, 276 years after the events that we just saw. And you can see these guys are all super grotesque and stuff now, because they can be wounded and they can be subjected to diseases and different things that where their skin won't grow back, but they just can't die. They'll just keep aging. It's weird. So of course the planet that they were sent to do the mining got eradicated in some sense, and they're stuck living on this planet. They've been stuck on this planet for 276 years, unable to get off. And so when the main crew comes to get the diamonds from that planet, they are like their ticket out of there. The criminals are like, now's our chance to get off. So that's the whole idea. So the criminals want to get off the planet with the help of these people. These people are just there for the diamonds, and crazy stuff happens. The artwork is all right. The coloring is pretty good, but it's just very, very digital. This is really not my taste. I like Brian Azzarello a lot, and I've liked other things this artist has done. I like this company, and there's a lot of comics. There have been, in my opinion, a lot of comics from Distillery, and I've passed up on most of them. So that's a pretty cool character. It's the Reverend. And so I just wanted to give one a try, and I'm glad I did. I thought it was good, but I definitely feel like this comic could have been done in 3 issues instead of 6. It's pretty decompressed. Some of the issues you don't feel like a whole lot really happened, and that's a disappointment to me. So I prefer a punchy story like this that you can get in one comic to a 6-issue series that seems like it was pretty decompressed. But of course, in the middle somewhere is where you'd like to have things. Now I'm going to jump right to this other longer series I just finished. Well, not long, but a mini-series. Another new comic, News from the Fallout. So I talked about the first 2 issues of this on my last video. But I finished reading the series, and I really, really did like it. I have to say, this was pretty great. Like I was mentioning in the last video, this series is pretty much all just silhouettes of characters, very cartoony silhouettes in black and white. The artist is Jeffrey Allen Love. I don't know anything that he's done before, but Chris Condon's the writer. So, first thing I'll say is, yeah, it seems like you're paying money for really, lackluster art. I think was the term I used for it. But the dialogue is great. The story is really good. The lettering is outstanding in this comic. I'll show you. Here's a good page that shows a lot of the different lettering styles. Let's credit that guy. Hassan Othman El-How. He's in everything now. I'm assuming it's a he. a lot of different stuff going on with this lettering. A lot of like lettering appears inside of a person's silhouette, different fonts and bolds, scritch and stuff like that. But you only really see faces if it's one of the infected people from this nuclear fallout that let loose these spores that turn people into kind of mindless beasts. But you see these silhouettes. You've got the pipe guy, you've got the girl with the big hair, you've got the glasses guy, you've got the main character. You can always tell his hair. And I swear to God, these characters in these silhouettes are easier to recognize than a lot of the characters in this book. I mean, I got used to these characters, so they weren't too confusing, but like, for example, the convicts on that planet that were all deformed looking, I could barely tell them apart. I could really only tell the Reverend. The rest of them, I was like, who's that guy again? Who's that guy again? So this is what I think one thing about storytelling, you know, like News from the Fallout was a really good story, and it was just fun to read. The Life series was kind of, you know, flashy and creative, but didn't deliver as much as this did. There's a James Heron variant. I love that with the skulls inside the mushroom cloud there. So as this contagion spreads, we're losing people in the crew. You know, more and more stuff's happening with the main characters. Their crew is shrinking, and I'm not going to spoil it or anything like that, but I just felt like this was a great series, start to finish. It didn't, you know, break any new ground at all, but it was very fun, and I would read another volume of this if it came out. I don't think that's going to happen. I missed out on the DWJ variant for that one, but I got the Simmons cover on the last one. So 6 issues, Chris Condon and Jeffrey Allen Love, News from the Fallout, gets a solid B+, I guess, maybe. Good, but not amazing. Dipping back into older comics, I read the Whiteout Melt trade because I had read the first volume of this recently, and this is a fantastic comic. You got Steve Lieber just bringing it with some incredible art. I mean, he used so many different forms of media on this. What does he say? Homemade zipatone, grease crayons, splattered inks, spattered paint, maniacal cross-hatching, dry brush, sponges, fingerprints, razor-slashed paper, Xerox manipulation, charcoal, unerased pencil, anything to make it clear to all readers that this was the coldest, driest, windiest, most dangerous climate on Earth, and it feels like it. And the writing from Greg Rucka is really fantastic. This one is a little bit like less dialogue than the first volume, and it's got some Russians stealing some nukes, and they gotta track them Russians, those Ruskies down and get them nukes back. It's the basic story, and lots of crazy things happen to them when they're tracking them through the snow. So this is an old series from 99, I think, but really, really great. I wish they would have done more of that series. On to another new comic. This is the new Conan from 2 months ago, I believe, number 25, the Alex Horley issue. So this issue is beautiful beyond belief, but the story didn't really bring it. You know, it was fine. It is basically this plot was a way to deliver Alex Horley the opportunity to draw all of the cool, memorable things from Conan. That's a really nice splash with that you can really see the texture of his canvas that he painted on. None of the rest of the imagery, you can see the canvas. So here we got this weird green looking dude who appears in their town. And this is, by the way, this is like King Conan. So they just jump forward to the King Conan era in this standalone issue. And this guy says he's got an amazing gift to deliver to Conan, but the only way he can receive this gift is if he's allowed to stay as a guest for 3 nights in his palace. And his woman's telling him not a good idea. His commander of his Black Dragon Guard, or whatever it is here, is telling him it's not a good idea, but Conan's trusting him. And sure enough, once this guy gets the opportunity to show him what's up, the feast hall and its inhabitants vanish into the void, and in the bewildering abyss that swirled around, the Cimmerian caught glimpses of fiends and foes from his distant past. So then the whole next sequence in the comic, which is really the fun stuff to look at, is just pretty much rehashing a bunch of Conan's most famous battles in a single panel or two, done in these montage styles. It's a really nice splash page, though. I mean, the art is gorgeous, so I guess it's kind of cool because, you know, you get somebody who's gonna do this one amazing thing. Let's see the Frost Giants. You know, let's see some of those big heavy hitter memorable points in the comic legacy. So it was pretty fun. God, that serpent is epic. So it just didn't really go anywhere. I mean, there was an ending, but it was just a vehicle for which Alex Horley could paint some badass stuff. Skippy is cruising around outside a lot. Maybe we'll let him in, just see what happens. Skippy, you want to come in? You want to come in? All right, come on. See how this goes. It's Thanksgiving, right? Let's be thankful for those we love. And this is Skippy, wild and crazy. Can you just be good, please? Can you just please be good? Don't go eating any of these comics. One of the funny stories I can reminisce quickly about Skippy in terms of comics is when he was a puppy, I came home from work one day to discover a comic had been completely ripped to shreds, and I'd never had a pet just destroy a comic before. But actually, I think I saved the cover. Yeah, here we go. So I have this comic holding box that holds a bunch of comics so that you can stash them in there and, you know, take them on vacation and stuff. So I load this thing up with comics I plan to read, just random ones. I pick out random ones. And in the front, there's a sleeve you can display, and there's the cover from the Commandy number 36 that he shredded. So I had all the rest of the pages were ripped to shreds, and I threw them in my wood stove. But that Commandy cover is, you can see it's a little chewed up. I just thought it was fun to stick in there. Behind this Commandy is I don't really know if I can get it out, but just fucking it all up. Yeah, there's a issue of Hitman behind that with a double cover. No, it's not a double cover. It's a misprint. It's got pages in the wrong order. Maybe it's double cover. Can't remember. All right, let's keep moving here. Here is another back issue from '94. This was Topps Comics, Ray Bradbury's Martian Chronicles. Look at that incredible Steranko cover. Go away, glare. Sorry, Skippy. Just insane. And I was really studying this. I'm almost 100% certain this was done in pencil. Probably the highlight of the comic was that cover. There's 2 stories in here. This Kaluta is really non-Kaluta-y to me, but it's cool, different. The credits are in the back. So we've got the off-season script adaptation from Ray Bradbury by James Van Hise and art by Del Barras. And it is kind of a funny story. This guy wants to, they've colonized Mars, and he wants to start the very first hot dog stand on Mars. So he thinks it's a very clever idea. And then these Martians show up with these crystal heads, and he instantly just thinks they're bad and wants to fight them. It's the classic, no, the aliens were actually good all along. The art's beautiful, though. The story just wasn't anything new, really, to me. Then the second one's called Kaleidoscope, all done by Howard Simpson. I guess this is a pretty famous Ray Bradbury story where these astronauts, all their shuttle blows up and they're all trapped in space, and as they're separating from each other, they're able to still communicate through their radio system. And they've done it like in plays. They've done plays of this story before, but once again, didn't do a whole ton for me. So that was a little disappointing. I read some of the other Topps Ray Bradbury Chronicles comics that were good, but that one wasn't as good. Okay, I did get to this DC Satanic Panic comic with a really stellar cover by Lee Bermejo. This is a one-shot Halloween special. And we have some good stories and some not good stories, as you would expect with an anthology kind of thing. I don't have a whole lot of experience with Satana, but John McCrea does the art on this one. And it wasn't the top-notch John McCrea art that I've come to expect from him, but it's a job. What are you going to expect? He's probably not going to put as much into this as he does for, like, Dead Eyes or something. But it was fine. Once again, this story didn't really have anything new to offer me, but it's good art to look at. Second story has some really crazy art. It's by Roberto Recchioni and art by Gigi Cavanago. So I'm pretty sure Gigi Cavanago was one of the artists on... I've got it right here. Let me check. Yep. On the Batman Dylan Dog, which had absolutely incredible art. And Werther Dell'Edera from Something's Killing the Children is on that too. I don't know who does what, but the art in this is great. I think it's very painted looking, but story doesn't make a ton of sense. It's just, I mean, they're trying to maybe go for something kind of artsy-fartsy with this story. I like that it's kind of wordless and mostly wordless. There's very little dialogue, but it didn't have a payoff. Now, here's by far the best one. And I'm not just biased because I like Daniel Warren Johnson, but Plastic Man, who I know jack shit about in a strip called Full Size Bars. Full Size Candy Bars, that is. Daniel Warren Johnson writer Riley Rossmo is the artist. And so there's these trick-or-treaters and Plastic Man looking super cool. So Riley Rossmo's art's great. These guys just collaborated on that Moon is Following Us comic. So Plastic Man's giving out these full-size bars, and he's like, you got to try these new bars, and the kids are all amazed by it, but it starts to make the kids melt into plastic, like Plastic Man. And he starts rolling around and he starts absorbing these children into his body. It's like, what's he doing? Is he evil? Is he taking over all these kids? Well, no, he needed extra strength to fight off this big beast. So he had to absorb a bunch of those children to give him some more girth to get the job done. See, look at this. Too strong. Need more children. And he's just wrapping children up into his body. It's pretty hilarious. Oh, it's just great. And then, of course, once he takes care of the bad guy, he snaps his finger and all the kids melt back out of him into their normal form. Because, you know, Plastic Man's not going to do him like that. It's just a really funny, weird story. Just great, though. Then we have the Warlord, Alex Gaylor and Daniel Bayliss on the writing and art. This was an interesting one. I haven't read any Warlord. I actually have some issues of Warlord that were my dad's. My dad did not read much comics, but I did get a small stack of comics from my dad at one point. He was really into Howard the Duck. That was like his main thing that he liked. So the Warlord gets stuck in this beam of light in this cave, and there's this bad guy, this cool looking demon guy here, who it tells him that if he ever steps foot out of this beam of light, then he's going to be able to take over the world and, you know, kill everyone. So what does a warlord do? He just chills out in that beam of light, drinking water from drips from the ceiling, and looks like eating some critters that maybe happen to roll by, and just getting more and more skinny and decrepit as he ages. And he's just trying to wait him out. And then some shit happens at the end. Disappointing story, The Demon Splitting Heirs by Kevin Scott and Don Aguilo. This is a not Jason Blood looking Jason Blood. Like, who's that hipster guy? Is this the emo Jason Blood? Sorry, disappointed. This art, so, you know, elaborate and detailed and modern looking, does not tell the story like that very simple black and white News from the Fallout silhouette comic. I mean, that silhouette comic, I could follow the story and I engage with the story so much more than this. And I love seeing a good Etrigan splash page, but who cares? It's just a short story that was confusing and dumb. Okay, maybe this one actually might beat out the Plastic Man one. This is Swamp Thing and John Constantine, done by Andrew McLean. And it's an absolutely great one. You got John Constantine goes to visit him, and he was tracking a werewolf. The werewolf has got him, and now Constantine is infected. He's a lycanthrope now. So what's going to happen there? Well, he gives Swamp Thing the gun. He's like, you got a silver bullet in there. You're going to have to take care of me. But you got to take care of this werewolf first. But we can't kill him. There's a special reason why. So we've got a sweet Swamp Thing battling a werewolf scene. Fantastic there. We've got Constantine changing into the werewolf right here. Awesome. Looks great. Still smoking. Badass. And it's just really great. So now Andrew McLean has a new comic coming out. I can't remember the name of it. I think it comes out in like February or March. That's like a total homage to 90s beat-em-up video games. And it's got some Alexis Zirot art, which I haven't seen in a long time. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, well, I tried this angle again. This angle's not working. Next video, I'm not going to sit in this angle. This was probably the dumbest one, Raven. I just don't even know who that is. I think maybe it says the Teen Titans, maybe. The art is actually good. Get the credit for that. It's Raven by Rowan McCall, story and art, but I just don't have any interest in this story really at all. Oh, and the last one was pretty bad too, Ambush Bug by Callie C. McKiller and art by Megan Huang. It just basically, here's Plastic Man again. It's just got like a little homage to everything. There's Zatanna again. Just goes back through all the stories and like wraps it all up. Like, in case you didn't just read this comic, we're going to sum it up for you. Kind of weird. Good comic, though. Those two really good stories made it worthwhile to buy that. A couple of older comics I read. This is a copy of Vault of Fear, number 15. Love me some Satan. There is a really dumb-looking Satan on that cover. Looks like a vampire that's just been painted red, or like a Dracula. You're being good. But, you know, these are reprints from 1951, 54, somewhere in that area. There's like 3 or 4 stories in here. I looked up all the credits, but it doesn't have any of the credits in here. Here's a guy making a deal with the devil. And yeah, that's a good one right there. Yeah, you know, just dude going to hell. Goofy looking devil. I like this. This, you know, is like pre-code horror. So this one's kind of funny looking. Gargoyle from the 5th Galaxy. Pretty weird looking there. This one I think is from 1954. Really good art on this one, actually. Look at that. hard to just remember these off the top of your head, exactly all the little things that happened. So, you know, for a comic that came out in like 1972, I'm not worried about spoiling it, but I just can't remember. So I can't spoil it. The Graveyard, Dick Ayers. Oh, this one I totally remember. This was a good one. So these are poachers going after these elephants for their ivory. And of course, it's very sad when they kill these elephants. And in the tradition of your, you know, O. Henry endings from EC, they supposedly they wounded this elephant, and they know that they've heard a tale that when these elephants know they're going to die, they'll retreat to some hidden secret elephant graveyard that's somewhere out in their forest or their swamp or wherever they're at. And then they think if they follow this elephant to there, that they will be able to rake in the dough with tusks galore. Sorry, thirsty. And what do they find? The elephants lead them to that graveyard, and they're like, "Oh yeah, look at those tusks!" And they start running in, and that is not what it seems to be. It's quicksand. Takes the dudes down. Good art. Dick Ayers is great. Just worked for so many decades. Here's another last one in here. This Arise, O Genie, spelled with no E at the end, was good. You know, they let this genie out of the lamp, and this genie's not granting wishes. He is just absolutely going to enslave everyone on the earth, and they should never have let him out. What were you thinking? But the the whole MacGuffin with this one's pretty dumb. The guy who lets him out has really bad hay fever, and he's got allergies. He's always sneezing, and once the genie comes out, he can't handle it. You see the genie's like coughing, and his eyes are running and stuff. He ends up retreating back into the lamp because he can't handle the germs on our planet. Sort of dumb. But I like these old reprint comics. It's a fun way to get stuff that you would never normally be able to afford pretty easily. Okay, almost forgot about this. Let's talk about this Ice Cream Man Mortal Coil Shuffle. Comic book done as a set of playing cards. This was so cool. Super creative, super fun to read. Every card has part of the story and the imagery, and when you do come across a card that is something different, that's not text and imagery, it pertains to the comic perfectly in every way. Some of the comic cards that look like magic cards, what you're reading about, like the powers that spell would have or whatever, just pertains to the comic. So it's kind of weird to show this off, but and there's little weird cards, but it's about a family that the parents are getting divorced, and the husband has a gambling addiction. So here he is playing some blackjack against the Ice Cream Man. You know you're going to lose that game. And the mom is just stuck in her work. And there's this weird guy who keeps appearing, who keeps holding up a single finger and saying Uno over and over again. So there's actually an Uno card right in there. It's funny, you hit this Uno card and it goes reverse, then all of a sudden you go right back to the previous one, and the text is almost the same, and then it's like stuff is like different though this time, and then it reverses you again. It's so clever. I'm not going to spoil it. I think you guys should track this down. I think this is one of those really cool, rare things that's probably not going to come along very often. But it was a highly satisfying comic, as every issue of the Ice Cream Man is. And it was just super creative. So definitely worth the money. You know, more expensive than a normal comic, but just a very fascinating artifact. Now, where do I put it? It's not going to fit in your standard long box. Too small. Let's check out this Kaya. So, Colossal Kaya. Now, normally these standalone Kaya comics that come in between the arcs are still just numbered as another issue. This one just says Colossal Kaya, $4.99. It's nice and thick. It's got some great guest artists on it. When you open it up, it does say in the indicia down here, Colossal Kaya, in parentheses, Kaya number 31. But it doesn't say 31 on it anywhere. It doesn't say 31 in the barcode. So when you get to the end and you read the last little part, Wes Craig talks about how the next issue is going to have another standalone kind of story that will be number 32, and that the main story will return on 33. So the numbering resumes with 32. So the thing I think they kind of screwed up on is just not putting a 31 on here. Collectors are going to be like, did you get all the issues of Kaya and the Colossal Kaya special? Yeah, I got them all, but I could never find number 31 because there will be no issue 31. When they list them all on the website, you know, it won't have a 31 because this will be listed as Colossal Kaya. So we'll jump from 30 to 32. Even though this is 31, it's just kind of weird that they did it that way. So the intro sequence, I showed this on a previous video, is Wes Craig, and it's just basically a summary of what's happened. For anyone who hasn't read Kaya and is picking up this special, there's your little synopsis of all the arcs so far. This page right here, I think I did my best to decipher what's what, because it tells you who's doing what here, but it does not, and it tells you the names of the characters each one of these people is drawing, but there's no real clear breaks. Sometimes there's these black panels that show you that maybe you're going into something new, like right here, there's just these black panels. But that's the only James Harren page, as far as I can tell. Nice looking page, but would have liked more. Then the next one we jump into is Mike Huddleston, and I can kind of tell that from the Decorum comic. His style's changed a lot over the years, but it's beautiful, and it's just a cool mixture of, you know, what you can tell is just real line work and then highly digitalized stuff. Just a really cool multimedia approach. That's a really nice one of Jen right there, transforming from that bear. So these little stories didn't really add to the greater overall Kaya to me, which was unfortunate, because this would be a chance for, like, remember they did the one that was like Kaya's backstory? Like, that was a really cool standalone. This next one is Declan Shalvey, I believe. Yeah, it's these foxes. They come across Lord Vox all damaged in this cave. And, you know, maybe that's going to be something that we needed to know for the story, like what happened to Lord Vox. I can't remember if we knew where he was or not, but he's hurting in this cave. Then we have Nathan Fox, and Nathan Fox, I know he's written some cool stuff, and I'm sure drawn some stuff. I can't place it off the top of my head, aside from I think maybe he did Godland with Tom Scioli, which I haven't read. But the Nathan Fox art is the best in this issue for me, and this is the one, coincidentally, with Kaya in it, and the coloring is fantastic. So Nathan Fox colors this too. Just superb art and coloring on this. Cool little sea creature she battles. Not much happens, but it's beautiful art. So, I mean, Wes Craig's art on Kaya is so great. You don't really care as much if it's not something like this. You got to have something really good, or else you're like, come on, just give me Wes Craig back. You don't want some mediocre artists jumping in, but I don't think he would have that. And then the Ryan Stegman, just like the James Harren, is only one page. It's just that big old creature, which is cool. It's just a preview of a creature or character that's going to be coming soon in the storyline, I believe. And then a super dope Jim Food double splash of Kaya kicking the face of a weird shark creature with like a Star Wars type blaster or something. That's awesome. Okay, Skip, it looks like you need to get going. Let's get out of here. Put them on. Didn't even realize that clicking was probably on the video, annoying everyone the whole time. I'm not very professional, guys. I'm sorry. I'm a noob still. Just cut me some slack. 2 more to go here. I read an underground comic that really was not one of my favorite underground comics, but it was cool. It was Anita Comics by Robert Crumb. My copy is super duper water damaged, I don't really care. I just care that I didn't have to spend a lot of money on it. So it's all crumb instead of the typical undergrounds where you're getting a bunch of different people full of super inappropriate stuff that, you know, it probably doesn't go over too well in this day and age, but I still love reading it. Bobo Bobinski has 4 or 5 pages here. Each one is a different little scenario. Some of them have almost no dialogue or no dialogue. Some of them have tons. This is him just sitting at a bar getting drunk with this old guy, and the old guy is just, you know, he talks really funny, and he's just griping about stuff, and he's using alliteration in every speech balloon, like Stanley, but way better because it's graphic. So Bobo Bobinski, not sure if that was like a reoccurring character Crumb had. Mr. Natural certainly was, and this Mr. Natural one didn't do a whole lot. Mr. Natural's never really captured my interest too much. The Simp and the Gimp, and then Dora Zockman. These are 2 little half-page strips. These might have been my favorite part of the comic, actually. I just love these things where he's got these guys just up there just speaking nonsensical stuff. Weird little variations on the same couple of words. Chuck you, Farley. Frack you, Chucky. And they just end up fighting at the end. Just a really random little strip. And then this one, you know, you can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose. You're like, you want to bet? Picks her friend's nose. Now, the majority of the comic was this final strip, Honey Bunch Kaminsky, the drug-crazed runaway. So I don't think this is supposed to be a strip Crumb did about Aline when she was young. Maybe this is a true story. I don't know anything about it, but, you know, parents catch her with some dope and they kick her, and she gets sick of their shit, so she runs away, and of course she just gets caught right away. Police catch her, and she just does debaucherous stuff. And she's like 14 years old, and there's all these, you know, super inappropriate pictures of her. So do it, Crumb. Just keep doing your thing. Somebody's got to do stuff like this. She gets with this guy. Not much else to it. So that's one of the weaker undergrounds, even though I do really like Robert Crumb. But still, a lot more reading mileage for this, you know, 1970 or 71 comic than you get from a lot of modern comics. Now here is the Glorious Annihilator Rainbow of Death, and I read this and absolutely loved it. The only complaint I might have is that the titular character, the Annihilator guy, he's got this great splash page where he's kicking the shit out of guys. I've shown that on the previous video when I did the unboxing. Then he's here on this second page staking some stuff out. And then he's at the very, very end on the last 2 pages. Or 3 pages. So he comes back at the very end. So this is 32 pages, no ads, and the whole story pretty much is about this weird hippie cult that these young people want to get into. And first you just think it's your typical hippie cult where everybody's doing drugs. They're the thing they have to bring in order to be accepted into this cult, which is very secretive and hard to find out about. So they have to bring flowers and drugs. So she lays out her big bag of drugs for them to all go to town on. And this leader of this cult is, you know, this androgynous kind of person. There's one really funny part. I'm just going to show it. I don't even care. You really feel like it's a girl. It looks like a girl. And, but you're kind of not totally sure. And then they're doing said drugs. They're taking lots of different stuff, and it's starting to kick in. And let's see if I can find it. Never find it, of course, when you're wanting to. Oh, here we go. So it's great. It's Josh Simmons. I love it. It's an outstanding comic. And I think it's 3 issues, and I'm going to love the whole thing. I know it probably will be really good to get in a collection to just read it all the way through. But it is weird because so much of the comic is just about this character ranting and raving about hippie stuff that on its own from another creator wouldn't have done much for me. But then he just throws in his typical weird Josh Simmons stuff. He's like, this person is playing with this cat, and you're starting to really think it's a girl, then all of a sudden just whips out the dick and starts stroking it. Like, what? What is going on here? And he just out of nowhere says, I enjoy fucking people in their mouths, pussies, and assholes. I enjoy getting fucked in my mouth and asshole. The world is full of whimsy and wonder, friends. Okay? What? And then just tucks it back in, and they go about their business. And I'm not, too worried about spoiling this. It's just issue 1 of a comic, but they take all these drugs, and then they venture out into the night. And if it's a Punisher homage, there's going to be some major bad guys going down that he's going to have to take out. So they're all cruising around to this house at night. And all of a sudden they start getting out guns and knives. And drugs are really taking effect now. So they take all kinds of stuff. And they are a murder cult. Bet you could have guessed it. So the Annihilator comes in, and after the police have been there, and investigates, gets a clue. So that's pretty much the first issue. It's just you find out that this is a death cult. It's a pretty sweet pinup on that last page there. And Michelle Fife back cover. So super solid. Looks like I'm gonna have to order from Mansion Press again to get issue 2 and 3, but I got no complaints there. I love Mansion Press. Thank you for watching. Happy Thanksgiving. I will be back with more videos soon. Till then, keep reading comics.